From siblings, sorta-ish, to connections and disguises. Hello, Magi here, and welcome back to another episode of Interesting Touhou Facts, the series where I talk about facts from Touhou that I find either fun, unusual, or simply interesting. So without further ado, let's begin the Interesting Touhou Facts number 64. Number 5. So in the last episode, I talked about Kagero and how she's the first werewolf in a remotely traditional sense. Now back in DDC, if you recall, we fought Wakisaki Hime, Sekibanki, then Kagero. When we met up with Kagero, she was surprised that Wakisaki Hime attacks people as the mermaid is usually timid. We learned that it was due to the miracle mallet that she acted in that way. The thing that caught my interest was that Kagero mentioned in Marissa's B route in DDC that she knew Wakisaki Hime due to the grassroots Youkai Network. After that, I went to check what this network is, but unfortunately we haven't gotten any new info about it since DDC. And the only info we know as of now is that Wakisaki Hime and Kagero are the only stated members. While it sucks we don't have any more information about it, it's possible in future games or print work that more details about this network could be revealed. With Antinomy being announced, who knows, maybe one of the two could join. Number 4. As you guys would know, when determining who's the oldest when it comes to siblings, you simply figure out who was born first and ta-da! Mystery solved. But what if it was not as simple as that? You may be asking, what the hell? How do you fuck up knowing who's the oldest and such in the family? Well, my answer to you is, what if they were created at the same time? Let me explain. So in DDC once more, in stage 4, we fight Benben and Yatsuhashi. The order we fight them does depend on the type of shot you use, so that's cool. Anyway, Benben is the older sister while Yatsuhashi is the younger one. Nothing strange about that. That is, until you learn that they were born as Tsukumogami at the same time. The question is, how did they decide who was the older one? Talking about these two reminds me of the Prison River sisters, the OG musical family. Lunasa, Marilyn, and Lyrica were created at the same time, yet Lunasa is the oldest, then Marilyn, and Lyrica. But these three are a little bit easier as Layla, the one who created them, based them on her 3 older sisters. Is it just me, or are yokai based on instruments really tricky when it comes to family age and whatnot? Number 3. In Gensokyo, there are 2 types of residents there. We got the humans and the yokai. We also have the oddities from here and there, but that's the majority of beings in Gensokyo. As you may recall, Reimu tends to hang around with the yokais quite a bit, much more than the humans. To be fair, they usually come to her when it's not an incident anyway. Given the people she's interacted with, you'd think that Reimu would want peace with both the humans and yokai, but it's not that simple, if you will. In Waldenhorn Hermit Chapter 9, Kaizen visits the Hakare Shrine and talks with Reimu and Marissa. Kaizen, seeing the yokai on the ground, comments that Reimu has been exterminating a little too much and that not all yokai have ill intent. Here, Reimu explains things about yokai and their existence, and in Gensokyo there are no yokai in their original sense, like unexplainable, dreadful, and inconceivable things. Kaizen remarks that it's a good thing that it's peaceful, but Reimu is like, fuck that shit! Reimu explains that yokai should attack humans, and humans should be afraid of yokai. Even if they put up an act, it's the yokai's role, and without that, she'd be out of business. There's more to this chapter than this little tidbit, but the thing I wanted to focus on was what Reimu said. Here we learn 2 things. 1. The delicate cycle of fear between the humans and yokai, and 2. How adamant Reimu was towards this important rule between the two. On one side, it makes sense given she's the Hakare Shrine Maiden, meaning her role is to maintain balance in Gensokyo. At the same time, it's weird given that she would want humans, her people, should be attacked. It goes to show you that this world is even more complex than we realized. Number 2. Last episode, I talked about Sanae and how she wasn't as knowledgeable about snakes as Marissa thought. It appears that the chapters Sanae was in had some more interesting stuff to it. So in chapter 23, the humans are getting restless and afraid of the snakes. Sanae is there and tells them that giving some offering might help. We later cut to a scene in a restaurant where a man is gorging himself on food. As he's eating, we see that Mami O has joined in. we learn that this big fellow is actually a yokai. He had eaten a human and then became a yokai. By becoming a yokai, he arrived in Gensokyo, but he was not aware of that. Given he was new to the place, he didn't know the rules about messing with the human villagers. Mamis O instead puffs some tobacco to him. It's explained that tobacco tar is his weakness, and because of it, he can't keep his disguise up. With his disguise gone, he slithers away from the restaurant and Mamis O pays the bill because she's a gal. Again, there's two things I want you guys to take note of from this exchange. One, if you're a creature and you eat a human, you become a yokai given what the snake did. 2. Even though Mamis O is an ally to yokais, she did what she did because he broke the rules. Another showcase of how important the balance and rules of Gensokyo are, especially between the yokais and humans. Number 1. Since we were just talking about her, it couldn't hurt to mention something about Mamis O. Now Mamis O has an ability that fits well to her species. She has the ability to disguise things and herself. Similar to Nuei's ability, it is an ability to make the appearance of things different from what they looked like originally. As opposed to Nuei, who relies on how humans recognize how it appears, Mamis O depends on her own conception. Mamis O is able to completely disguise herself, save for her large tail and her ears, which appears to be a commonality among all Bakedanuki. In order to get around this, she can shrink them or camouflage them, but if she is surprised or excited, her ears and tails would twitch, making it a dead giveaway. Maybe if you randomly screamed in her ears, you can make them pop out, but I wouldn't suggest that though. Another giveaway would be her smell. Her disguising abilities gain power on nights of the full moon. Since Tanuki like to do things like disguising people to take on a bewildering look, they rarely do inflict direct damage. The meaning of disguising things is something that resembles the follow Nuei, and thus mutually, they do not appear to play the role of close-range combat yokai. Thus, it is a possibility that Nuei has called Mamis O over with the consideration that since the opponent can hear 10 people's conversation at the same time, one has no choice but to call over a suitable yokai for splitting into 10 plus 1 equal 11. She is also able to disguise other objects. However, if there is no resemblance between the base object and the disguised one, it will probably be seen through immediately, especially in regard to creatures. While the ability is described as a simple disguise, it isn't a mere illusion. It actually influences and changes the physical properties of the target. For instance, in Hopeless, she could turn the opponent into something completely harmless, and her underlings seem to obtain the properties of whatever they transform into, becoming able to attack by blowing steam after they transform into a giant pot. Point being, Tanuki can easily be some of the greatest trolls you'll ever have to deal with, next to Yukari. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Which facts were you interested in? Would you like to know more about the Grassroots Network? Do you think Mamis O's ability can be used for super trolling? Or were you intrigued at how important the relationship between the human and yokais were after seeing it being discussed by Reimu and Mamis O? Like always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and subscribe. Or else Mamis O might like to play tricks on me, and I'd rather not deal with that. Either way, this is Magi and thanks again for watching.